You may know if you want to make a point, you tell a story. Pretty important if you want to try to make a point, you tell a story. It's a simple way to make your point. And most speakers already have that. Most speakers already get that. So if you get that, good. Great. That raises the question is, how do you tell a story? What's the right way to tell a story? Well, the key thing in your story is about your characters. Your story characters. And that's something not a lot of speakers really think much about. They think, oh yeah, I'm going to tell a story. And they get busy and they get this story going on, they're narrating, they're talking about different things. They don't really concentrate on those story characters. And so what often happens, and maybe you've experienced this before, is that speakers tell a story and you're listening to the audience, you're thinking, okay, I sort of get it. Yeah, there's kind of things, but it's a little blurry in your mind. You ever heard a speaker and just had everything be kind of blurry in your mind? You just weren't quite getting what was going on with those characters? It happens a lot, right? Yeah. You're going on and everything seems to be okay, but you're not quite sure, all right, well, what's that going on with that character? Where's that character about? Which character is it? And they all just kind of blur in your mind. You're not quite sure what the heck is really going on because the story characters just aren't coming across. They aren't working. Because the story characters don't work, you don't get them, you don't see them, that causes problems. So you really want to make sure you get those story characters in your audience's mind. Get them kind of fixed so that they say, oh yeah, all right. So how do you get those story characters fixed in their mind? What are the things you need to do? And that's what you're going to find out about today. Because you might think, Tim, not really much you can do to get a story character fixed in the mind. You mentioned a few things, and they get it or they don't get it. They had to be there, right? No, they didn't have to be there. Your job as speaker is to put them there. And to make that happen, you got to have those story characters just pops. They just, yeah, I get it. Now I know. And there are 3 A's you can think about. Every time you're putting a character together, think about these 3 A's, and they'll kind of make things come together. They're simple, they're powerful, they're effective, but there's something most speakers don't think about. Because most speakers don't think about them, they don't use them. Because they don't use them, it's blurry in the audience's mind, and becomes a whole kind of a big mess. A mess you don't want to get involved in and don't need to get involved with if you're aware of the 3 A's of story characters. And they're simple. In fact, they're things probably you're already kind of aware of anyway. You're probably aware of these 3 A's, how they work. The problem is you don't have them front and center in your mind. It's not an issue of, hey, Tim, I never thought about that before. It's more an issue of, oh, okay, Tim, I get it. I've got to make sure that those things are there. Because once they're there, then things start to happen with the story character, with the story itself. It can really kind of take off. If they aren't there, you get your typical flat, boring, dull story, which you've heard before, where things just don't quite work and you're just not quite sure why. 3 A's, they got to be there. Each A, as you start using them, gets a little bit deeper into the character. The first A is kind of the outside. The second A is probably what most people, when they're putting a character together, focus on. It's the third A that really kind of refines things. And you put all these 3 A's together, you get a really solid kind of story character. A story character where the audience thinks, okay, this could be a real person. Heck, for all I know, that is a real person. And that's the thing. You want your story characters to come alive. Because your story characters come alive, your story comes alive. And it's pretty simple. Once you start doing that, you have these story characters that pop, that come alive, then the audience will instantly sit down and say, oh yeah, okay. Tell me more about that. It's interesting, yeah. Bring that out a little bit more, yeah. And then you can make everything a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter, more interesting, once you have those 3 A's. Now, the first A is something that you really need to have. It's like the very basics of any story character you create. Without this, there's literally nothing. There's nothing. But it's something you want to think a little bit about. Because if you don't do it right, I mean, you think, oh yeah, Tim, it's obvious, but if you don't do it right, then the story character can fall apart from the very beginning. The very beginning. You don't want that to happen. So you make sure when you put this A in there, and you make it work, that you make sure there's enough there so the audience gets it. They get that immediate impression. Once they get that impression, then they can start to say, okay, I'm starting to understand this character. And the first A is the character's appearance. Appearance. First A is appearance. In other words, what does the character look like? And before you go saying, Tim, hey, that's pretty obvious. What does the character look like? It's amazing how many speakers don't bother to describe their character. Maybe they'll give them a name. But quite often it'll be that guy was doing stuff, and then other things happened, and this guy was doing that, and that guy was doing this. But you don't see what that guy basically is. It's got to have an appearance. They got to look like something. So maybe now you're wondering, Tim, okay, great, but I mean, how do I describe this person? How am I supposed to describe them? Well, there is a tendency, and maybe you've seen this happen before, and there are professional storytellers, and they do this, and that's fine. If you're going down that road of professional storytelling, you just kind of lay it on. Oh, he was a tall person with deep blue eyes, and they seemed to stare through your soul, and he had on a polyester coat that looked like it was ripped out of the 1970s, and there was a slight frayed pocket on it going on, and hey, if you want to master Storyteller of the Month, that's fine. Go for it. But if you just want to be a speaker and tell a story to make a point, you really don't need all that stuff. Appearance, just keep it simple. What do they look like? Maybe mention their hair, they're blonde. All of a sudden, boom, hey, blonde, I get it, all right. I know what a blonde person looks like. A blonde guy. Got a picture in your head? I thought so. A blonde guy, fine. Great. So that at least gets you started. Too many speakers start putting on all these details and they start confusing speaking with reading a book. Here's the thing. Speaking is not a book. Where in a book, you may have a tall, red-haired person with dark, sparkling blue eyes and a green coat and all this stuff. And it's fine, because you can go back, because you can reread that. Oh, what was she looking like? Oh, yeah, you can pop back in the book later. I'll check a few pages back. Oh, yeah, that's what she looks like. Here's the thing. You can't reread your speech. The audience can't reread your speech. So if you put a whole bunch of descriptions in there, and they lose it, they're going to have no idea what that person looks like. So keep it simple. Keep it really simple, really basic. Just blonde hair. That's fine. Or tall. Hey, the tall. Tall guy, tall gal, tall woman, tall man. Or if it's some sort of animal, what animal it is. It's a white-haired rabbit. Okay. You get it. It's that appearance. Do you want to get across to your audience? They know what the character looks like. Because that character is in your audience's mind. Doesn't matter what you're thinking about the character, it matters what the audience is thinking of the character and what they take with that character and stick into their mind. That's the whole thing. So an appearance, just keep it simple. Blonde-haired, tall, red-haired. Don't say raven-haired, just brown, black. Keep it really, really simple. Black-haired, whatever it is. That's the appearance. So once you have the appearance, you're starting to get a sense of the character. But of course, appearance alone isn't enough. It's only the first A. You need a little bit more if your audience is going to get that character. The second A of a character is something that you get after you get to appearance. So far you got to appearance, fine, all right, got to appearance, that's fine. But then there's that second A that comes in. And it tends to be the one that speakers tend to focus on most. In fact, quite often they'll pass right by appearance and go right into that second A, which isn't good. As mentioned, you got to know what they look like before anything else can happen. But once you do know what they look like, then it's safe to go into that second A. Okay, I got the A for appearance, now I can go to the second A, everything is fine, great. And that's really where things start to happen. It's really where things are going to start to happen in your story. Because the second A is their action. Action. You've got a character in your story, and your character isn't doing anything, you've got a boring story. Character has to be doing something. Something has to be going on in that character to really make that story come alive. There has to be an action. And the more dramatic, the more interesting, the more exciting the action, the better. If your character simply sits in a corner and broods and worries, pretty boring. So, Bob, brown-haired Bob, was sitting in the corner worrying. And worrying, and worrying, and fretting, and nervous. No. But, if brown-haired Bob comes out and punches somebody, punches Tom, punches blonde-haired Tom, wow, something's happening. Now, it doesn't mean all your characters have to hit each other, but they do have to do something. Maybe they get frustrated. Okay, fine. They get frustrated, but something has to cause them that frustrated. There has to be an action going on. They're trying to do something and not able to do it. Some action to cause them to get frustrated or upset or annoyed. That's the key. So once you have the appearance, okay, great, I know what they look like, then you have to have some sort of action to go with that. And action is key. Because that action will kind of determine where your story is going. If it's a story about a guy who's kind of frustrated, okay, that's where the story is going. If it's a story about a guy who's doing something, okay, that's where the story is going. There's a big difference between a guy getting frustrated because he's trying to do something and a guy going off and doing something and getting lost. So one guy can be frustrated because they're trying to solve a puzzle, for instance. I don't know how to do this stupid puzzle. Or, so he could be annoyed because they go into a kayak and they're kayaking down the rapids and they're with blonde-haired Tom along with them, and Tom doesn't know how to steer the kayak and they're getting lost, the kayak's starting to flip over. Well, that's a lot of action. Different types of action than just somebody struggling over to solve a puzzle. But that action will determine where your story goes. The action of your character determines where that story goes. And the more action you can build in, the more action you can get happening, the more your story starts to open up. The more you get that story character to do something or be something and some action really going on, the more interesting it is. There's a reason why they call it action-adventure. There's a whole category of movies, action-adventure, because once you start having action, then you can have an adventure about things going on, things happening, and it's really exciting because, here's the thing again, the audience can't read your speech. The audience can't read your speech. You can read a book, fine, but the audience can't read your speech. So you've got to have action going on that the audience can follow, and the bigger action it is, the more they get it, and the more that they can go along with it. If the action is too subtle, the action is like some sort of weird psychological thing, not going to do well for a speech. So you've got to have an action. Well, you got two of the three. You got appearance, you got action, but there's something missing. All right, you're starting to create that character. You've got two of those three A's. Two of them. First thing is you have appearance. You're starting to see what the character looks like, and that's really important. You've got to know what that character looks like. And then you have an action. Something is happening. Something is definitely happening with that character, which is great. And many speakers stop there. If they remember to describe what the characters look like, they'll tend to stop at the action. Oh, he was kayaking. He was struggling to solve a puzzle. Okay. But that's not enough. Because there's something else your character needs to really bring that appearance and action together into something that's going to make that character pop in your audience's mind. So they get it. They can just say, wow, I get it, I know that character. And that is attitude. Attitude. Attitude is the third A. It's that thing that's going to take your character, your appearance, your character, they look like something, they're doing something, but it's going to make that character's really come alive. Because even if you know what they look like, hey, a blonde-haired guy, and you know what they're doing, they're not trying to solve a puzzle. Their attitude towards those things is going to be huge. For instance, you're trying to solve a puzzle, and you're like, I really don't care about puzzles, they're not any big deal, whatever. That's an attitude. Attitude, let it go. But if they're really intensive, they're really analytical types. They're saying, I've got to solve this puzzle. Okay, A goes to B, and B slide goes to A, and C goes to 7. That's an attitude. And it's a completely different reaction they'll have to the problem that faces them. A completely different way that they'll do that action. Both actions are actions of frustration, but one is, forget about it. The other is, let me get really, really involved in it. Let me find a book on puzzles. Let me read about the history of puzzles. Let me look at documentary of puzzles. That's a whole different attitude. And that attitude will drive the character. That character and attitude will drive the story. So if you got someone who's always kind of an adrenaline junkie, and he's going kayaking down there, he'll deliberately take the most difficult pass down the water. He'll take blonde-haired Ted in one of the most screaming, scariest kayaks ever, because of the way he goes. Or, if his attitude is one of carefulness, he's plotted the things before. He thinks he knows where all the different turns in the river are. He thinks he knows exactly what blonde-haired Ted should be doing. And that attitude will just drive the action all the way through. Because once you have that attitude, then you really get a sense of a character. Think about people you know. You know what they look like, you know what they do, but what really gets you is their attitude. And maybe you love them because they got a great attitude. Hey, they're helpful, they're nice, they're friendly, fantastic. Or maybe you can't stand them. They have this horrible attitude. They're coarse, they're sarcastic, they're abrasive, they resist you every chance they get. They're always trying to zing you or put you down. That's an attitude. It's an attitude that determines their character, determines whether you love them or hate them. Same thing for the audience. That attitude will drive the character, but also will drive the audience's attitude towards the character. How does the audience react to the attitude of your character? Huge, huge thing. Because in any speech you give all the way through, what changes is the attitude of your character. Yes, they're going to look the same. Yes, they took these certain actions. It will take the same actions again afterwards, but there'll be some attitude change, and that attitude change will be the point of your story. That attitude change will be the point of your story that drives the story to say, okay, because this attitude happened here, and then all of a sudden they learned something, and they had a different attitude, a different way to approach it, a different way to actions. All those things happen because of that attitude change. but have an attitude change, you have to know what their attitude is before. And they have to have a definite, strong, powerful attitude. So attitude is really key in putting together your character. Right, and those are the 3 A's. It begins with appearance. Appearance. Because your character, your story character, exists in your audience's mind. If it's fuzzy, if it's unclear, if they don't get it, they can't even begin to imagine what that character is going to be like because they can't see it. But if it's clear, if it's distinct, if they get it, then they get it. And they can go along with the story. When you're putting together the appearance of your character, keep in mind to keep it simple. Because your audience cannot reread your speech. Unlike a novel, a book, which you can reread, your audience cannot reread your speech. So you have to get it. Which means you want something simple. They're blonde hair, they're tall. Something like that. Something in their appearance that instantly is recognizable, that they can get, they can understand. Keep it to simple words. Not everybody knows what raven-haired is, or auburn, brown-haired, black-haired, gray-haired. That's simple, people will get that. Well, once you get appearance, then you bring in the action. Okay, this is what the character's doing. This is what's going on with the character. Bring that action in. So your character isn't doing anything, you got a boring story. Action's really important, and most people don't have problems with action. They get it. Because the whole story is about people doing something. They'll tend to skip over appearance. You know, Bob went to the store. Okay, what does Bob look like? You don't know, but he went to the store. That's there. But now you got the appearance and the action. It combines a little bit more realistic. More get a sense of who Bob is, what he might be doing. But there's yet one more A. That third A is going to put everything together, and that's the attitude of Bob. How did Bob go to the store? So, brown-haired Bob went to the store. How? He's the sort of guy who goes to the store and loves it. He goes to the store and shopping all over the place. He's got his list all written out beforehand, just loves it, puts more things. He looks around the store and says, oh, I could buy that, I could buy that. Is he an impulsive shopper? Oh, that'd be great, that'd be great, that'd be great. Or is he treated going to the store like having a root canal? Oh, God. Gotta go to the store, been putting it off all week. Finally, gotta go to the store. Horrible thing. That attitude will make that character pop. Because the attitude is something that will change. Something will happen to that character that will transform the character, and their attitude will change from before to after. Maybe they're grumpy and suddenly they're happy, they become happy. Maybe they're frustrated and become calmer. Some change will happen to change that attitude, but to change the attitude, you have to have the before attitude to have the after attitude. Those are the 3 A's. Appearance, action, attitude. When you have those, and you keep those in your character, all of a sudden you find that this character just kind of starts speaking. I mean, it comes alive. If you have appearance, action, attitude, your character comes alive. All of a sudden, the character pops up, and you may be surprised, like, whoa, I didn't expect the character to do that. And as you're trying different things at home and working different things out, you're practicing and going over it, you start seeing all the possibilities this character could have. You're like, hey, character could do this, character could do that. No, look at this attitude, how this all changes everything. It brings everything alive. When that happens, you get a confidence on stage. When you have appearance, action, and attitude to your character, you got a real character there. You know you can go on stage, and you're probably going to be okay with that story. The audience is going to get it. They'll be intrigued. They'll be kind of pulled in, saying, oh yeah, okay, tell me more about this story. Seems like an interesting guy. Seems like an interesting gal. There's something there. And when that happens, you make that quick connection to the audience. All of a sudden, you have appearance, action, and attitude. Boy, the audience is saying, yeah, what's going on with this character? What's going to happen next? Where's this going? What's happening? The basis of just brilliant, wonderful storytelling. Appearance, action, attitude. Just keep those 3 in mind, like a checklist, okay? What do they look like? Okay, here's appearance. What are they doing? Got the action. What's our attitude toward it? How are they behaving? Okay, now I got the attitude, and everything kind of comes together. You start doing that on stage, and hey, in your life you may become even enjoy storytelling. Maybe you'll do it for fun at home with your friends, family, relations. You'll become better storytelling in your life because you're better storytelling up here. And all you have to do to make it happen is keep in mind the 3 A's of your story character.